Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning into the Business Hour with Rashid here on Unity FM. So, the Business Hour is the show where we talk all things business. So, if you're a business owner, a budding entrepreneur, or even an employee, then we have got you covered. Now, if you've missed previous episodes, you can visit the Unity FM website for previous shows, or alternatively, you can visit my YouTube channel, and the handle for that is at Rashid HR. Please do also connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. The handles for all of those are also at Rashid HR. Now, what makes the Business Hour so valuable and impactful is our guests, and it's their wisdom, their knowledge, and experiences that they share. And today's show and guest will be exploring the world of PR and how PR can support and benefit you and your business. Now, to share her expertise, today's guest is a former BBC journalist with over 15 years of PR, communication, and event management experience. She's accustomed to designing and delivering successful communication and PR strategies to meet profile building and influencing objectives. Having worked with PLCs, large SMEs, micro businesses, and startups, she has equipped herself with enough experience to focus wholly on small businesses, creating compelling and powerful messages to engage with the public. She's the one and only Nafila Khan. Nafila, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, first day back, and it's a bit mad, a bit crazy.
Good, good. That's what we like to hear. Now, just for our viewers' benefit, you're actually based outside of London. I can't tell with the accent, obviously being a Brummie accent, that's the best
Right.
that's around. But is it just outside of London? Is that where you're
I am
from?
based. I'm actually born and bred London, West London. So to everyone in West London, yeah, that's me. But I'm just outside of West London, which is a place called Wokingham. It's in Berkshire, which is near Windsor.
Okay.
So I live out in the country with just lots of
So when
quietness.
you say Windsor, straight away I'm thinking Windsor Castle. I'm thinking
Yes.
of Legoland in Windsor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're about 10 minutes away from there. Yeah, all of those places. I mean, it's a lovely place to live, but it's so quiet. I mean, coming from born and bred in London. I mean, I don't know if you know Southall. So I was born near Southall, a place
which
called
Asian,
Hayes.
which Asian doesn't know Southall?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was born in Hayes and grew up in Hayes, and it's all the hustle and bustle. And and I worked in London all my life, and then boom, got married, and my husband's like, okay, we're moving to Wokingham, and it's just quiet, peace, countryside. Literally, like we have you can hear the birds in the morning. I never was able to hear the birds in the morning when I was living in Hayes. So yeah, it's lovely. It's nice. My kids love it here, so we wouldn't move.
Okay, wicked, wicked. You don't get. I don't think from Birmingham point of view, maybe not something as similar here in Birmingham. But I like the hustle and bustle.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
kind of describing a little bit like the village. If you were to think of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh sort of thing, maybe it's a little bit of the village life.
It is. It is. I mean, we live where we live. We live in a kind of masonette cottage, so it is very much the village kind of life. In the country, you have to go out with Wellington boots. Can you imagine that? We have horse riding down the road from us, so it's
Very
it's
nice, very nice. Thank you again for coming on the show. Like I said at the introduction, so we want to talk about PR. It's something it's always interested me, being a business owner, especially a service-led business owner, the whole PR, how it kind of that misconception of it's a bit of marketing, or does it link with marketing, or does it complement marketing sort of thing. So it's really excited to kind of get into this and speak to you about PR, and I'm sure our listeners are. But before we kind of really get into it, I'm also interested in what was it that got you into PR and journalism. Obviously you said you've been a BBC journalist for 15 years as well.
So when I was younger, I was extremely quiet, very, very reserved person. And I used to watch these people on TV, journalists, and I was just just amazed by them really. And one thing that really kind of stood out to me, obviously, was that there was very many Asians. So it was almost like it was embedded in my head that I had to do this. I had to become a journalist. And obviously, with my parents, they were like, "No, journalism. What the hell is journalism?" Like it was just completely a no go from the start. But I did it. I did my A levels in media communications in English, and then I went on to do journalism in as a degree. And then I got a job, well, as actually work experience at BBC London News, and then I got a job there. And then I stayed there for years, and I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was just exactly what I had expected it to be. Having said that, for about I think 7, 8 years, I fell into PR. I don't know how it happened. It's very similar actually, because you're in public affairs, so you know it's very kind of similar. You're out in the public eye. Um, I was offered a job in the City of London, and I fell into PR. Again, loved it, and never left since. So it was kind of like, but I still do work in journalism, but I kind of remained working in PR in the city. And up until 6 months ago, I started my own business, which has just been an absolute whirlwind. But yeah, so I know when people are talking about small businesses and where they're coming from, like I am a small business myself. So people need PR, people need marketing.
Yeah. With journalism, is there a certain specialism that you as a journalist on? I mean, I follow a lot of journalists on Twitter. Granted, they're all sports related, so I'm more interested in
Right.
sports journalism
Oh,
than you're anything else. But what sort of genre or sector journalism
I
did you
was
cover?
broadcast journalism. However, saying that, I am a big advocate on writing, so I enjoy writing as well. So I did a lot of writing for kind of magazines and newspapers as well, whilst I was working at the BBC. But whilst at the BBC, it was broadcast journalism.
Okay. So
Yeah.
would I've seen you ever on TV? Was you ever on TV or radio?
No,
No.
I did a few voiceovers,
Okay.
but I was never, see, again, I don't know what it was. I never was confident enough to actually be in front of the screen. I don't think I ever still would be confident enough to do. I mean, I don't mind speaking publicly, but being on TV, I don't know, just now that kind of scares me a little bit, I think,
Okay.
being on.
Um, just as a journalism sort of profession now on TV, there is, I think, there's obviously more diversity. If I look at Sky Sports, for example, there are a few there are a few women. There is then some women from an Asian background as well. You look at general presenting, more and more women from a different, a BAME background. There seems to be a bit more of a push for that, but growing up, and some of the women, without being disrespectful, I think roughly around about your age.
Yeah.
So growing up, maybe going through the same challenges of them, was it a challenge? And I think from yourself being from a Pakistani background,
Yeah.
was there a challenge with you, A, from your background, B, being a woman in that sort of journalistic field, or was it a field that was actually quite open?
No, hugely. I mean, it was a big deal for an Asian person to be a journalist and trying to break that barrier and trying to get into the BBC, for example. I remember my editor at the time, his name was Sandy Smith, and he was quite a big kind of well-known editor. And he used to always talk to me about Asian programs and Asian things. And I almost used to think, why do you keep talking to me about Asian things? Like, I want to break that barrier. I want to go into mainstream, stop trying to bring it back into the Asian kind of pigeonhole. Yeah, so we used to get that a lot. And also I think with Asian people, they never had that privilege that English people had. I mean, I saw that. I mean, nowadays obviously it's a lot different. We're talking going back 20 years. It was, Asian women at the BBC was quite rare back then. But now I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. I mean, when I switch on the TV and I see all these Asian women, it's incredible. Honestly, it's come such a way, and I'm happy that my children actually have that option as well. They see these role models on TV. I never had that role model, and I wish I had. But yeah, it was. And again, with being a Muslim as well, again another barrier, because there's a lot of bias. There were certain things that we could and couldn't say. So it's always been there, and I think it always will be there. But now a lot of Asian women have the courage to kind of break through that barrier and do things that we couldn't do back then.
Okay. You mentioned broadcasting. Now,
Yeah.
I think, we are probably of roughly similar age. So growing up, we would have faced the whole 9/11. We might have then faced, the various wars. And then as things kind of grow and proceed, the whole Islamophobia sort of thing,
Yeah.
there's always a certain bias, or there's always a certain comment around the media portraying, Islamophobia, Muslims in a certain way. And maybe, how did you yourself cope with that, or did it not bother you, or did it bother you, sort of thing? What was your experiences with all of that broadcasting, especially knowing maybe in a certain way it's being pitched in a certain angle?
I think when you're working and when you're in a profession, there's certain things that you can and can't really do. And it was quite obvious that there was a bias against uh, Islam, or let's say Muslims. And I actually did my dissertation on the ideological misrepresentation on the war on Islam at the time. And it's always been like that within the media. But because I was so aware of it and I had studied it, I was not going to make a point of making any noise about it. So it was almost like I kind of just, dived into the background and let it just not bother me, although it was there. Like, for example, now a lot of people are, speaking out. There's social media. We didn't have social media back then.
Yeah.
We were all kind of in the background, all quiet. But now seeing people speak up about what the issues were back then, it's incredible, honestly. But yeah, I mean, the way I dealt with it is I literally was just, I kind of just faded into the background. And I think as an Asian lady, I had to fade into the background. If I was trying to, I would have just been pushed out easily. I would have just been like, no, okay, so we don't want nothing to do with you. So yeah, I mean, and I was lucky enough to even get a job at the BBC at the time. So I had to do whatever I could to stay there, I guess.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's go into the PR aspect of it now. So
Yeah.
obviously you mentioned about you went into PR. Now, before we really, really delve into it, common question is, what's the difference between PR and marketing? Now, I've done a bit of a marketing business degree sort of thing, but
Ah,
if I was
okay.
to look back, I mean, I did business management, so part of that we did a bit of marketing and stuff like that. To an extent, I think I get it. But for some of our listeners, what is the difference?
Right. Okay. So marketing is more focused on selling. Okay. So when you're marketing a product, you're focusing more on trying to get the product out into the market. Okay. You're trying to sell it. You're trying to find ways, the best way to sell it. You're trying to find the right target people to sell it to. Now, when you come to PR, I mean, don't get me wrong, they correlate, they work with each other very much so, marketing and PR. But when it comes to PR, you are working on the reputation or the brand or the individual of that company. So you're basically trying to keep that company alive. Okay. So for example, or you're trying to introduce that company. So it might be a brand new company, you're doing a launch event for them, you're introducing them to the world. You're not marketing them, it's basically a PR campaign that you're doing for them. So I don't know if that kind of, there's a lot of confusion around marketing and PR. Marketing is more, if you could just put it this way, marketing is more based around selling. Okay, so it's focused more on selling a product as opposed to PR, which is more about kind of the brand.
Okay. I know some people might be listening and thinking, well, okay, if you're introducing a brand new company into the market,
Yeah.
that is marketing, because end of the day, that's the whole purpose, isn't it? And the whole purpose eventually is for that business to get to obviously make sales, be
It
profitable.
works,
Yeah.
yeah, it works hand in hand with each other. I mean, they do. I mean, marketing and PR do work. I mean, I do work in marketing and PR as well. So a lot of the companies that I work for now, they take me on board with PR. And it's funny because they don't actually have like a marketing plan put in place. So what I then have to do is go back to scratch and then put a marketing plan for them together. Because realistically, what every company needs is a marketing plan and then a PR plan. I think just jumping into PR first and foremost can be a bit kind of confusing for some companies because you have a strategic marketing. I mean, you know this, having done marketing, having a strategic marketing plan put into place beforehand and then focusing on the brand and the company.
So you say any business, whether it's established or starting out, concentrate on marketing first and then PR.
I mean, I think personally, it just
Yeah.
confusion. for me, that's how I do things. I'm sure a lot of people do things differently, but that's how I have done things in the past. If there's a company that I work for, they have no marketing, but they want PR. I will go in there and I will help them with the marketing, and then I will do their PR, because I just feel like it's, once they know who their target market is, who they're selling to, what they're selling, how they're selling, their engagement, what the engagement rate is, all these kind of things. You need to know all this information, and then we can then push. Then we know the right kind of industry to push it out to, because otherwise you're just pushing out to the wrong people. There's no point making noise to everybody if you're not making the right noise to the right people.
Okay, one of the things for me, Nafila, right, and this is where maybe I don't want to say I don't see the value in PR, because I think that would be wrong, but this is where I would maybe say I'd lean more towards it. Yeah, cut the show right now. But with marketing, right, because you're selling, like you said, the idea there is to sell.
Yeah.
You market something, I suppose what you could do is you could track that marketing leading to X amount of sales. Whereas I think where people may struggle with PR is I don't think it's as easy to track that piece of PR has brought in X amount of sales. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, one form of PR I'm guessing is billboards or a TV ad, or possibly, I don't know, maybe billboards or whatever, you're getting your brand out there. Yeah. You couldn't see directly a correlation of, unless someone actually says, oh, I saw you on that billboard or whatever, or I saw your article in a magazine, for example, that's why I brought it.
Yeah.
Whereas someone could say, yeah, or you could track an Instagram ad or a sort of Google ad or an SEO ad or whatever. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think, what would you say to that? Is that a fair assumption to make, or a fair reason, or do you think actually people have misunderstood that?
I think people have completely misunderstood that. And I think with PR, it really is about, again, it's like making noise. You're making noise, but you're not marketing the product, you're making noise about the product. And I know that sounds really confusing, and people are probably listening thinking, yeah, okay, well, that's the same thing. But it's you have a brand, and you want to push that brand out into the market, okay? And the way you do that is having first established who your market audience is, what you're selling, who you're selling to, what you're doing, etc., etc. And then you have the PR come in. It's really funny, actually. I had a story. I had this one client, and they said, brand new client, brand new product, services, everything, and said, okay, I've got a new product. Put a press release out. I put a press release out, and she said, okay, where's my clients? And I said, but I'm not your salesperson. And she said, no, but you put a press release out. I want about 100 people coming back to me. And I said, it doesn't work like that. And it was almost like I had to break down to her what PR actually is, because there was no marketing in place. And that's when I thought, oh God, we need to kind of go back to scratch, and let's work on your marketing first, and then we'll start promoting what it is that you want to promote. So yeah, it does work hand in hand with each other. It's just that you need to do it properly.
Okay, so people listening, so I want to break this down into two types of scenarios. So the first one is SME businesses. How should they approach it? And we want to differentiate just for the listener. So SME businesses, you're gonna answer that, and then I'm gonna concentrate on solo entrepreneurs. So when I talk about SME businesses, it's going to be 2 or more, 3 or more, 4 or 5 staff, all the way up to 100, 200 sort of staff, a larger SME. And then when we talk about solo entrepreneur, it's literally, I've been made redundant, or I've just got an idea and I'm going to start up on my own sort of thing. So from an SME point of view, how would you say that they should approach PR?
See, it's funny that you say that, SME or small business or solo, because the approach would be very similar. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So first of all,
so you could answer this question just as one, rather than
absolutely. Okay. Because the thing is, whether you're working on your own, whether you're working with 3 or 4 people, or whether you're working with there's 10 of you, I think it's first and foremost, it's so important to choose the right person, the right company, the PR agent for you, for your fit. I mean, that could be anything. It could be culturally, Islamically, spiritually, financially, whatever works for you, it has to be the right fit. So you have to do your research and find the right PR person, because there's thousands of us out there. I mean, there's so many independent PR people out there, and you just have to find the right person that fits your company. And when I say fit your company, I mean someone who, works around, your objectives are defined. So you need to make sure that the person who you get on board is working with those objectives, who understands your values. Because I think it's very, you could employ somebody, or you could employ a PR company, and they could just not understand your company very well. So that's first and foremost. Secondly, you need to treat the relationship like a partnership. I think with a PR person, they are there to help you grow as a company. Okay, so you have to be completely open with them. Don't be flat. Don't be reserved. Just be completely open. The more the PR person knows about your company, the more they can put your company out there in a positive light. And I think it's really important when you're choosing somebody. But first and foremost, obviously, the values has got to fit. Financially, it's got to work for you. Culturally, it's got to work for you. You just got to make sure you find the right PR person for you. That's ultimately, I would say that, because I think a lot of companies, what happens is they just end up finding the wrong PR person for their company, and they're like, oh, they didn't understand this, or they couldn't understand that. And I think in the beginning, if you had already kind of established whether you can work well together, then I think you can create magic.
Is PR expensive? Because I always look at, again, this might be a wrong stereotype for me to, or assume, or an assumption to make, but I've always seen PR being, let's get a newspaper article in, let's get a column in, like press release, etc., and it's probably seen as quite expensive, or especially as a one-off, or whether you do it as a campaign. I mean, what would you say to that? Is a one-off campaign or a one-off press release insufficient or sufficient, or how long should your PR campaign be for?
They vary. They vary, honestly. I mean, there could be a new company, you might have a PR campaign running for about 3 months. And the reason that PR is so expensive, okay, let's first of all talk about big PR agencies. There's what, let's say, for example, there's about 10 of them. So you have to pay for the wages for all 10 of these people. And there's a person who has a niche in each of that company. So one will be making phone calls, doing cold calling, one will be in charge of the press, one will be in charge of, I don't know, another something else. So what you have to make sure is, when you are looking for a PR person, and if you don't have the budget and you want to find an individual PR agent, it's not expensive. It doesn't have to, it's just time consuming. That's what takes up more money. I think that's what it is. And I think a lot of PR agents or PR agencies charge more money because they have people working for them, and they outsource a lot as well. So they have to cover their costs, because, we've got somebody, so for example, you're putting a press release out, you've got to ring, I don't know, say for example, a dozen newspapers to get the press release out there. That will take a while. It's not just a one-day job. So that in itself will cost money. They're obviously paying wages. But if you have an individual PR person, it will take longer, but you will get the job done, but it'll be more cost effective for you. So yeah, it's not expensive, no. And I think there's that scare. I think a lot of people are scared about that for some reason. I think a lot of people think, oh my God, PR is really expensive. It actually isn't. It's not expensive at all.
You mentioned with newspapers and stuff.
Yeah.
Do people still read newspapers? Is there still value in doing a press release in a newspaper or a magazine? Because everything's now,
it's all online.
digital, isn't it? It's all online, yeah.
No, yeah, there's no, I mean, to be honest, if I'm putting a press release out, it's going to go online. It's to be online. Everything is just online. I mean, for example, in during COVID, the pandemic, it was the PR didn't stop because we were still working. We were still able to do everything and put everything online. People were still reading press releases online. So that worked for us. That worked in our favor. But everything now is just online. It's all technology savvy now. Oh my gosh, It's like completely different to when I was back in the days, with the broadcasts and the newspapers and that kind of thing. It's just, it's very different now.
Because of social media, do you think it's more easy to do PR, or do you think it's just so much, there's so much traffic, there's so much there, it's more difficult?
I think
Because
now
like you
with
said,
social media, yeah,
yeah,
I
sorry,
think
because
now
like
with
you
social
said,
media, a lot of people are doing their own PR. Everyone's doing their own PR. They're able to do that themselves. They're able to create their own content. They're able to put out stuff themselves. And that's one of the things I do when I work with small businesses. I don't charge them extortionate money and think, oh my God, do this. I will say to them, you can do this yourself, you can do that yourself, and you can do this yourself. I'll do this and this and this for you. Like most of them don't want to do the writing or the case studies or the press releases or the newsletters and that kind of thing, which is something I will do. But things like content creation, putting stuff up on social media, that can be done yourself. You don't need a PR person to do that. Or you don't need, and I'm a lot of content creators are going to hate me for this, but you can do it yourself. It is difficult though. It is time consuming. I'm not going to lie. And I think getting a content creator to do that for you is amazing because they can do an amazing job for you. But if you don't have the budget for it, I guess it can be done yourselves.
we've got Nafila Khan here. We are talking about all things PR now. Nafila, just before the break, you mentioned about content writers. Now, people listening may go for content writers. That's fine. One thing I always find with content writers, using people to write your content, whether it's for social media or etc., I think you lose that authenticity because sometimes the way I will do a post, sometimes I will do it with a bit of passion, or I will do it literally like how I speak, and it comes across a bit raw, and then people say, "Look, I like that because that's just you." But then imagine you take that rawness out and someone writes it, and it's all a bit more clean sort of thing. I think you lose that authenticity. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Right. So I've got some big thoughts on that actually, because I think that's kind of going back to what I mentioned with regards to getting to know a company really, really well. So you get to know them so well that you are able to write something that they would write. It's
Okay.
that kind of it's that kind of process. So one of my clients is a clinic, and she's a doctor, and I haven't got, but I haven't got a clue about anything. I had to really research, and I had to do a lot of kind of studying about her company, about what they do, how they do it, and so that I could write a press release on their behalf, something that they would write. And she absolutely loved the press release, and it was almost like, and the thing is, it wasn't just the first one that I wrote. I had to do a couple before she was kind of happy with it. But you have to really kind of get to know a company. You got to know them so well, so you are able to write content for them. And then content creators will tell you this as well. They have to know the organization well enough to be able to create something that's going to be relatable to their kind of audience. So yeah, that's pretty much your answer. And I think it can be done. It can be done. It just takes a lot of work. You've got to really know the company really, really well. But the authenticity, obviously, yeah, no one can do anything better than yourself, I guess. No one knows your company better than you. You're a small business, so you know this more than anyone. When you put your posts out, you probably wouldn't get anyone else to do your videos for you, would you? You would, because no
No.
one knows you better than
No.
you. No one can explain your company better than you can. But I think when the company starts becoming a little bit bigger, then you need to have somebody there on your behalf.
Yeah. One thing that's I've noticed, and it's kind of evolved, is with content, there's a lot of automation,
Yeah.
and I think there's technology that's come out. And I mean, I've, some of it's really, really good because, and I see it a lot on LinkedIn when you've connected and you get a personal direct message, and some of it's really, really good. It made it look like it's really content, and it's only. I mean, once someone did, I wouldn't say fooled me, but one person did actually. I like the message he sent, and we ended up talking, and he actually then said, okay, that was AI generated, now you're actually talking to me, sort of stuff. And I was a bit like, I felt like I felt like I got done, sort of thing. Because I was like,
That's like,
oh, the robot got me, not an actual
that's
human.
awful. Oh my God.
No, but it's all good, and I mean, it's not for me, and it might not be
No,
for
same. Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's because I think I'm a little bit older than you, actually. I'm not going to talk about my age, but it kind of goes back to old school. I think it's, we are not used to that. We're
yeah,
not used to that technology. We're not, we want to be spoken to. It's like COVID. Oh my God. I was like, I can't meet anybody face to face now. What the hell am I going to do? This is crazy. But it kind of goes back to that. That would really freak me out. If I had that, that would have been like, oh my God, I never want to speak to you again.
Um, but just on that, and obviously you've mentioned COVID and how things have
Yeah.
evolved. I mean, from a PR point of view, with this technology, with this social media, with how maybe pre and post COVID, how do you think PR's evolved or changed or
I mean,
enhanced or whatever?
like I mentioned before, PR now, obviously, there's a lot of there's TikTok, there's, people are promoting their companies with content creation more so than anything else. And I think that works because it's visual and people like seeing visual. Nobody wants to read anything boring anymore. Nobody wants to sit there. Back in our days, we would create a press release and you sit there, open a newspaper and you do your press release and they're like, oh, wow, then now you've got exciting things popping up, on video and things like that. So in COVID, everybody was doing their own PR. Everyone was doing their own PR. Yeah, I was doing press releases, but I was doing it for more of the kind of bigger former companies. I mean, I was employed when I was during COVID time. So I've only just recently started my own company 6 months
Yeah,
ago. But back then, I mean, I was still working for a large organization. So I was still writing press releases. I was still doing case studies, but these case studies and press releases were being seen by, the directors, etc. But I'm thinking, had I started my own business back then, I think I would have struggled big time because everyone's doing their own thing now and everyone wants to see exciting content now. And I do that for my clients now. But I tell them how to do it themselves as well because I just think, you know what, there's no point you wasting your money. What's the point? The reason I started my own business is because I've seen a lot of small businesses struggle. I saw a lot of businesses go down the pan as well. And it's heartbreaking. You put your whole life into
yeah.
something. And if I can help you promote it a little bit, why not? So that's one of the reasons I started my own business. And alhamdulillah, it's really, I'm shocked how like it's kind of got kick-started and it just had one client after the other. So yeah, I'm very grateful for how it's kind of progressed. But going back to the difference between service and product business, I don't know if we've highlighted this yet or not, because it's quite a broad kind of question. I don't know if you've mentioned the service and the service businesses and the product businesses, because
Do you think it matters? Do you think PR does PR? Do you need to adapt your PR, or is there a different type of PR if you're so someone like myself is a service-based business.
yeah
You are as well.
yeah
Accountants listening, lawyers listening, etc. Your coaches. But then you've got a product-based business, or whether you're selling toys, clothes, whatever sort of thing. Does the PR differ?
I mean, in essence, it doesn't actually differ that much because you're going back to content creation. You're going back to online. A lot of it is done online. If you're selling a product, guaranteed you're going to be selling it online.
Yeah.
You're going to be putting products out there. You're going to be creating content, which is PR online. And now, like yourself, you're a service provider. You do your content. I've seen your videos. I think that's actually what connected with you. I think I saw one of your videos. And again, it's that visualization, isn't it? You see somebody, you see that personality, and you connect with the person, and then you just think, okay, I'm intrigued. I want to know more, and that's how PR works. You just want to kind of push the brand out there to attract people's attention.
So the video you saw of me, is that marketing or is that my PR? Because I wouldn't.
That
I
was
just
your PR. That was PR. Oh,
that's
come on. That was
PR.
a PR stunt. I'm sure you had a wig on or something.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
had
yeah.
a wig on or something. And I was like, what's this? Yeah. And I'm sure I think a mutual friend liked it or something. And yeah, then that's when I started following you, I think. And I find it really interesting because I love how different small companies bring their own personalities to the stage. I
Yeah.
love that. And I think the authenticity of it, it's like, since I started LinkedIn recently, about 6 months ago, all I ever talk about is authenticity. It's so important to keep it real because what's the point of being fake? One day you're going to be caught out anyway. So you might as well just keep it real, put
Yeah.
yourself out there. And that's what people connect with. They connect.
I speak to a few people, and they do amazing things. Um, and when we say to them, look, shout out about it, I
Yeah.
get I get two types of answers. One is no, we're happy to stay quiet, and we don't, we're not good about talking and shouting out about it. And I think the other one is, and I think some of the listeners may appreciate, being Muslim sort of thing. You have that nazar. People will say, I don't want nazar, I don't want anything tainted, I don't want, us shouting out about, oh, look, we've moved into a new building, new offices, or we've got XYZ.
Yeah.
Um, is that what PR is about, or how can people, maybe, what would you say to, if someone said to you, no, I don't want to do that, that's what I see PR is about? What would you say to that?
PR is about making noise. Of course it is. It's about making noise. And I think if someone has started a business, I mean, I've not yet heard of anyone saying, I don't want anyone putting nazar on my business if I push it out there. Because you have to push it out there. If you want your business to grow, you've got to push it out there. It's just the way, that's just the way it is.
I think it's more around successes. So, let's say, for example, you win an award, people might
Yeah.
say, okay, I want some PR, I want to shout
Yeah.
out, I won an award.
Yes, and it
Someone
works.
someone who might say, okay, you know what, business has grown, we've now acquired a brand new site, we're now moving to these modern new site, unit, offices sort of thing. Some people I've heard would say, I don't want to PR that because I don't want that nazar to go on, and I don't want something bad to then happen because we've
Yeah.
moved to that. They're just saying, I'm just happy to stay quiet about it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think if somebody's purchasing new offices or something, or they've bought a new car, which is a company car or something like that, and they don't want to shout about it. I mean, some people will, because then other people think, oh my God, they're doing really, really well. Let's jump on board with what they're doing. Other people won't do that. But things like winning an award, I think that is good PR. And I can't see anyone not mentioning the fact that they've been nominated or or anything like that, because I think that is PR and it is good PR. Actually, let's talk about good PR and bad PR, because I think a lot of people talk about how if you have bad PR, is it still good PR? It's really not. It's really not. I mean, bad PR, come on, it's bad PR. You do not want to tarnish your company with bad PR, because it can take one person to say something bad about you or your company for you to then come. Actually, we're going to come round to this.
No. Listen. You're saying bad PR is okay. What if, right, something bad's happened, right? I have seen campaigns. I can't remember something. I've seen campaigns. I've seen PR where they've made a bit of a joke about the bad negativity and they've turned it around, or they made a joke about it, or they've said, okay, we've learned our lessons and we're now doing something positive about it or whatever. And they've turned it around as, they've turned the negative into some sort of positive or whatever.
No, these are established companies. These are established people, established brands, or these are people who are established. Now we're talking about small businesses today. So small businesses, you do not want to go down the route of getting into a bad PR. I mean, and the thing is, you have to be really careful, because I think a lot of, you have your companies out there who people will review as well. And one bad review, I mean, I've seen it. One bad review is just cause like just like a downfall of other bad reviews. And, so I think just trying to avoid bad PR as much as you can. It kind of comes back to there's 7 types of PR.
Okay.
So you've got strategic communications, which is what we'll go back to setting up a plan. Again, this is going back to the marketing kind of plan. So you have to have strategic communications in place when you're looking for a PR person. Then you have media relations, which is all things kind of press or press related, online, newsletters, case studies, press releases. Then you've got community relations, which is a really good thing for PR. So these are all the good things that you're doing on behalf of your company. So you might have your service that you're providing, but you might say, actually, I'm going to do a bit of HR for this hospice. And it is community relations. It's good PR for you because you're doing something for your company. It does to garner goodwill for your company. Then you've got internal communications, which is obviously what goes on inside your company. And then you've got crisis communications, which is going back to bad PR. So when you have bad PR, you need crisis communications, which is trying to bring you back from that bad PR. So say, for example, someone said, oh my God, Omar's wig was so bad, like, don't ever work with him. And
which is not true, by the way. It's not true, by the way. Can you understand?
And then I would have to, if I was on board, I'd be like, no, that wig was there for a reason, because he's just recently lost some hair and we had to replace his hair with that wig. You know, it's almost like you have to just cover it up. So that's crisis communications for you. And then you've got public affairs, obviously maintaining and building relationships with key stakeholders, and then online and social media. So you've got all of these in place when you're doing PR. So it's not just, I think this is why people say, oh my God, it costs so much money, because PR isn't just about putting a bit of content out there and saying, oh, look at me, this is really great. There's just so much involved with PR. There's so much planning that goes into it. And I think that's what people are scared of when they are scared to pay for PR. But guys, seriously, it's not expensive. PR is not expensive. A lot of the stuff can be done yourselves. It's just knowing what to do yourselves and what you can't do yourself. Yeah.
I think
And
you
that's
make
where,
I think you make a valid point with the negative PR for bigger brands. They could get away with it, but I think like
yeah,
you said, the smaller business, someone starting out, um it can be detrimental. I think mentally it could be quite demoralizing and
definitely.
difficult as well. Yeah. The 7 things that you mentioned about, is it key for a business to do all 7, or are you saying 1 or 2 of them or a couple of them? Or is it that during the time you should look at one of those? Well, maybe not the crisis one, but the other 6 types of PR.
Yeah, so I mean, when you get a PR person on board, what I do is I always put a PR proposal in place. So I cover all of the PR types of PR that we'll be covering in the company, and crisis communications will be in there as well. So, say for example, it'll be part of the campaign. You don't know when something can go wrong. So if something does go wrong, it will be covered because crisis communications is part of that. You know, somebody being there and saying, actually, oh my God, you know, something's gone wrong, can you help me out here? It's all part of the campaign. So when you have the right PR person, they will put together a PR proposal for you. Everything will be covered. So yeah, so the marketing strategic plan will be put into place, a PR proposal will be put into place, you know, and everything will be broken down, the budget, the timeline. This is what clarifies for a company what will be coming out, what they will be getting out of it, basically, because you have a timeline and you've got a budget, and you know you should be receiving some sort of, I don't know, return on investment eventually. Maybe not straight away, but you know, nobody wants to waste their money on PR, basically.
No, I agree. I agree. You mentioned a lot about PR being online and digital and everything. So,
Yeah.
do you think are we seeing the future of PR? Is it that everything is now going to be digital, or do you still think there's other types of avenues or other types of PR that work well? You know, there may well be, I mean, I suppose if there's something that's a niche industry or a niche service, you might have a niche publication. But if
Yeah.
you're a very general type of business targeting very general type of customers, then is it that it's online and digital the main way to go?
Should I tell you what really I find is really powerful right now?
Go on.
Podcast.
Okay.
Podcasts. Honestly, I find them, and I will honestly advise anyone with a small business, if possible, to somehow, you know, kind of go into podcasts, because just interviewing people within the industry, but maybe interviewing clients, you know, just such a good way of getting your case studies out there. You know what? Even with case studies, I'm writing case studies and press releases now. Even they are now slowly dissolving because people can just say their press release. People would just say the case study on the podcast. Everything is just visual.
You know what I find, Nafila, is I think the attention span of people is reduced. And I mean, I try to listen to podcasts, and unless it's something that's really, really interesting,
Yeah.
I couldn't listen to a podcast for half an hour or 45 minutes or whatever. I'd want a short podcast of 10, 15 minutes. And I think football, if I'll give you one prime example, there was a time with a football match you would watch and you just watching 45 minutes, no problem. I think even now, you know, we're so consumed with other things. Even with a football match, we'll be on our phones scrolling through Twitter or LinkedIn or other stuff or whatever. And again, that I think we find our intention spans really, really narrowing. Um, I mean, that's going to be a bit of a challenge for PR, isn't it? Because you're thinking about press releases. I don't want to read columns and columns of a press
Yeah.
release. I don't want to
Yeah.
listen to a 40-minute podcast. I want, like you said, the short snippet videos, 60 seconds. And there'll be a comma time where 60-second video will be too long. I want a 30-second video. Then a 30-second video will be too long. I just want something in 10 seconds.
I don't know, because I think if you're looking for a service, say for example, you're looking for, I don't know, let me give you an example, a mortgage, okay? And you know, you're trying to get a loan or a hedge fund or something, I don't know, you're looking for something that's over £1 million and it's quite niche. So you have found a company that do this niche product or service for you, and they have a podcast and they're talking to another expert on their podcast and explaining all the details. You will find that interesting. Not everybody will find that interesting. So
Yeah.
I think your attention span won't be that bad then, because you'll find it interesting because you want to learn, you want to know, because this is something that you're interested in. And I think when it's specified to each product or service, a podcast, to the target market, it does work. It does work. I have seen. I mean, I think podcasts are the way forward for me. I
Okay,
think so.
that's
I think, yeah,
yeah,
you should do a podcast. Have you done a podcast yet?
you
Or
know, I have got a podcast.
oh,
It's called Diary of a HR Man, and I did start off with a few episodes where it was literally that I opened up my HR career, different topics. It's something I want to get back to doing.
yeah,
I suppose the biggest challenge is it's time, but it
yeah.
is something, and I think I suppose you saying it, yeah, it's giving me a food for thought.
Good, good.
Well,
So if I can
yeah.
help one person, even if it's you.
Just quickly, Nafila, right? We've spoken a lot about PR. In your view, what would make a good PR campaign?
Wow. Okay. So you know what? There's actually quite a few things that would make a good PR campaign.
Yeah,
So number one, okay. So basically, the time and effort. Okay. So it's a time and effort that you're creating to make the expected results. The messaging has to be creative and newsworthy. Okay. I mean, I can't express creative enough because, like you said, with the attention span nowadays, it just everything has to be creative. It has to, and it has to be news. It doesn't have to be like a hollow message. The message has to have a purpose. Okay, so any campaign that you're doing has to have a purpose for it. You need to know your target audience. You need to set realistic goals. You need to develop a good message. You know your competition. Stay relevant to the times right now, and establish the overall campaign goal. The budget, the roadmap. What makes a really good campaign is knowing your audience, knowing the time scale, knowing how long it will take, and what they're interested in. I think if you can know all of these things beforehand, then you can really hit a good campaign.
okay. Interesting. Interesting. Nafila, for anyone listening, any aspiring PR professionals listening, what advice would you give them? And especially those who may be female, maybe from a Pakistani background, a Muslim background
Yeah.
as well. What advice would you give them if they're thinking of a career in PR? Or
See now,
he started out in a career in PR and want to
yeah.
maybe get to where you are now?
I mean, okay, for the young, I would say obviously because they've grown up with technology. So if anything, there will be, you know, it's such a technology savvy world out there. They can just jump online. They can start creating content. I think a lot of the content creators, so many on LinkedIn. Oh my gosh, like, and I know they don't call themselves PR people, but you know, it is PR what they're doing. So and marketing.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. Like a lot of people probably think they're doing PR, but they don't actually know it. Like I said, the videos that
Yeah,
I do, I never really
yeah,
thought of that as that was PR. I thought that was
yeah.
more just marketing and a bit of fun.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. I mean, but the thing is, you have an established target market, so you're not just putting a video up just for the fun of it. You have your established target market. You know what you're doing. You know what you're saying. That's the marketing bit that's done already. Now you're doing the PR, which is the video with the wig on. You know, so that's you don't know it, but that's what you're doing. So I think with PR, I think for someone who's young, you know, it's so easy to get into nowadays, but writing is key. I mean, I'm a keen writer. You've probably seen my LinkedIn that post about forever, and I really enjoy writing. And I think writing content as well is, you know, quite important. Just getting the hang of writing good content, getting the hang of creating some creative kind of videos. TikTok, obviously. I mean, I've got a TikTok account. I don't think I've ever used it, but I think that's quite an easy way for a young person to kind of get into PR nowadays. But someone who's old like me who wants to get into PR, give me a call. I'll help you out. Yeah, I think it's just about writing really, and it's about content creation.
Okay, wicked. Nafila, how can people get in touch with you? I'm sure the wisdom you shared, there may be some people here who want to have that conversation further
Yeah.
with you. How could they get in touch with you?
So I have, I'm on my LinkedIn as Nafila Khan. Okay, so, and I'm very new to LinkedIn, by the way. So I've only just started my own company 6 months ago. I've got an Instagram page, which is
What's your company called?
Simple PR. Hi, yeah,
Okay.
and events. I do events as well. So because I do a lot of brand launches. So I've got an Instagram, which is Simple PR _events. So please follow me. And yeah, please do get in touch. I mean, I will answer your questions, and don't be scared about PR, honestly, because I think a lot of people are scared. I think they just see PR, extortionate money, big retainers. It doesn't have to be like that. We can make PR work for you, and there's a lot of it you can do yourself. So yeah, it's not scary as people think it is.
Wicked. Nafila, a massive, massive thank you for coming on today. It's been really, really good. Really, really
You're
enjoyed.
welcome.
Can't believe how quick the hour's gone. A lot of food for thought, a lot of valuable information, content.
Just one more point, actually.
Yeah.
I am part of also an organisation which is CFOSB, which is a conservative friend of small businesses. They help small businesses as well. So, and I'm a part of that. I'm in the I'm head of PR for them. So again, you can get in touch with me and I can direct you. If you're a small business and you need help with PR or help any other way, any small business, anyway, just get in touch.
Brilliant, wicked, Nafila. Thank you very much. And guys, thank you for tuning into the Business Hour with Umar Rashid. We'll be back next Tuesday at 6 o'clock with another fantastic guest. If you missed the show or you caught the back end of the show and would like to take a listen again, you can listen again at Saturday at 5 o'clock. Or you can visit my YouTube channel, which will be uploaded in due course. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, the handles, and as well as my YouTube channel are at Umar Rashid HR. Thank you for tuning in. Inshallah, we'll see you again next week. Until then, Assalamu alaikum.